For coming. My name is Deborah Tuff. I'm the Media Relations Strategist for Gwinnett County government. Want to give you a quick rundown of how this will work. We're going to have brief overviews from Office of Emergency Management Director Michael Shaw, Fire and Emergency Services Chief Fred Cephas, EPA On-Scene Coordinator Brian Vassar, as well as Water Resources Assistant Director Charlie Roberts, also up here to answer any questions. So the folks I just mentioned will be giving overviews, but to answer any additional questions, we also have our Gwinnett Police Chief, J.D. McClure, and of course the woman behind it all, Chairwoman Nicole Love Hendrickson. So without further ado, I'll turn this over to Michael Shaw. Thank you.
Thank you. Yesterday morning, our office became aware of the biolab fire in Rockdale County in Conyers. Our duty officer, who remains on duty for 24 hours, monitored the call, was receiving information both from GEMA as well as EPD and EPA as that situation developed, in case there was any kind of need for residents of Gwinnett County to take any kind of action. At no point did it reach that level, so our office continued to monitor the call, the incident, as it moved into today. Should there had been any need to take action, our office would have been tasked with sending out a wireless emergency alert. The wireless emergency alert is a text-like notification that is enabled on most cell phones. It would have given instructions for people if they needed to shelter in place or evacuate. For our office, it did not reach any of the criteria from the subject matter experts that we were receiving information from. That included EPA, GEMA, DPH. We were not receiving any kind of instructions that it was necessary for the public to take any kind of action. Thank you.
And Fred Cephas from Gwinnett County Fire and Emergency Services. And in preparation to the events that happened in Rockdale, we initially went into an emergency operations plan, which is we have to be mindful anytime we have a large influx of calls coming to our area. So we have to be mindful of having units in service for true emergencies. So that's the first thing we did. We created an incident action plan to let our internal personnel know exactly our plan in mitigating this incident, as well as sending somebody to the emergency 911 center to help triage calls. We felt like it was appropriate to do so. We also felt like this was wind blowing the fog into our area, causing a large number of complaints. Last but not least, we do have a hazardous material team who went out and did their own monitoring throughout the county and found no areas of concern. So that put us at ease and just had us monitoring the area, coming up to the Emergency Operations Center to ensure that we get the proper messaging out on behalf of the Gwinnett County Fire Department, the county, and the Emergency Management Agency.
Good afternoon. My name is Brian Vassar. I'm an on-scene coordinator with the U.S. EPA. I'm based out of Region 4. Yesterday morning, EPA was notified of the fire at Biolabs. We ended up responding to that to support the response, primarily through air monitoring. So we've been on site since yesterday morning, conducting air monitoring, both at the site itself, within the exclusion zone, and now continuing out beyond the exclusion zone or evacuation zone that was established in Rockdale County, working into Gwinnett County. And as of now, outside of the site itself, or just inside of the evacuation zone, we've not seen any levels of our constituents of concern that would warrant having contacted Gwinnett County and let them know to issue a shelter in place or to consider a shelter in place, very much as the fire department mentioned. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Charlie Roberts, Gwinnett County Department of Water Resources. One of the things that I want to make sure that everybody knows is that our water is safe. It has been. The water in the pipes is safe to drink as always, and it will meet the high standard that our customers have. Additionally, for the supply of water, we draw water from Lake Lanier very deeply, and we are constantly monitoring for water quality changes, and we have seen none, we expect none, but we will obviously continue to monitor the water as we always do as a part of our normal course of business. Thank you.
Now, with that said, we'll turn it over to questions that you may have, and if you also need the names and spellings and titles of the folks up here today, I can give that to you afterwards.
Can we hear from the gentleman from the EPA and just talk about how large of an area are we talking about that you all are monitoring right now? Are you able to come to the microphones? I mean, we just got this alert from GEMA saying that, letting folks know that you're monitoring. So talk about how large that area is.
Yeah, so our monitoring has been done in kind of three locations, right? One is right directly on site. We're doing air monitoring to protect worker personnel that are in the zone, that are helping to remove parts of the building and helping to stop the reactions that are ongoing. We're also doing air monitoring in the evacuation zone that was established in Rockdale County, as well as in their shelter-in-place zone, which was the entirety of the county. And then we're slowly expanding out from there. So we've been working our way north as the wind shifts or something like that. So we're trying to cover as best we can the areas that are potentially impacted. We're now getting some calls through various EMAs that are helping us identify areas that we can go and try and identify what the odor complaint may be and how that might be impacting people in that area.
We've heard a lot about chlorine. What are you all finding when you're testing this?
So the primary constituents that we're worried about are chlorine or hydrochloric acid. Both of those are given off in this reaction that's kind of ongoing at the site. We're seeing very little chlorine or HCl outside of within the immediate range of the site itself.
Is there any concern for people who may be in sensitive groups, people who are immunocompromised or have other chronic health issues, if they are exposed to any of this?
Sensitive groups can always, they're called a sensitive group. So they can be more sensitive to chlorine or HCl if they were exposed, but we're not seeing levels. Most of our action levels that we use try to account for sensitive groups as well. So we're not seeing any of those levels right now, but that is always a concern that there may be a sensitive population that could be impacted during an event like this.
There's just a lot of skepticism in the community about just kind of what kind of testing is being done. Can you just kind of speak to what kind of testing you're doing, what that looks like? Can you try to maybe reassure some people that are really skeptical?
Sure. So right now we're using air monitors. So they're a live read instrument, right? We get data from them every second. And we're able to, some of them are set up stationary, some of them we're taking around with us so that we can go to locations that either have odor complaints or locations where there may be sensitive populations, so that we can get real-time data back to inform decisions. So earlier today, we used that real-time data to help inform Rockdale County that maybe they could shrink their shelter-in-place orders or shrink their evacuation orders to try and target where the plume is going. So we are using the two instruments that we're using. There's a single point monitor, which we use for detecting hydrochloric acid, and then we're using ray systems to monitor for chlorine gas.
And moving into the evening, how are you tracking the plume? I'm sure you're looking at weather forecasts and staying on top of that, but ultimately, where do you think it's headed and where does your work turn to from here?
So during the day, it's easier to track than at night, but we do look at the forecast, and then we can track it with our roving monitors as well to try and kind of determine if we're still in the plume or not. Things change. Every now and then you'll have an inversion either in the evening or in the morning, and so things will sit lower or the winds will shift. When we try to keep up with that, that's part of the reason that we have stationary monitors in place, so we can deploy around an area so that we can try and catch it before, as it moves, and then roll our roving monitoring in that direction instead.
We're getting, emails from folks saying, there's clouds hanging over their neighborhoods, we're like a mixed neighborhood, but also smells bad. So if it's not hazardous, what exactly is in this cloud that's causing that smell?
Yeah, so sometimes you're able to smell chlorine at level. It has a very low odor threshold, so you may be able to smell it at a level that is below what would be considered an action level for us, or that would be considered hazardous to an individual. So that tends to be what they're experiencing. I can't speak for all of the complaints because we haven't investigated all of them, but we do try. But typically it's that there's a very low odor threshold that would be below the hazardous level in the air.
Is there a possibility that these levels could rise, especially in southern Gwinnett, as the cloud kind of moves?
It can be very weather dependent on which direction the wind is blowing and the heat of the fire and how the plume moves. The plume can go higher or lower and sit. I don't know that I could answer that really.
Is EPA the agency that's going to be in charge of investigating after this plume has died down and things like that? Investigating what exactly went wrong here? Will that be y'all's?
So not for my portion of EPA, at least. My portion of EPA, I'm in Superfund, an emergency management division, and so our goal is to support the response right now, help us get it cleaned up, get all the material that is there reacting now, get it stabilized or treated to stop the release. That's our primary goal.
What was some confusion yesterday that I was out there myself? First, they said to stay indoors, and then next, they had evacuation. So, can you explain to us why was that the case?
So sometimes they're shifting information. Sometimes you will have an initial shelter-in-place order, and then as you get more information, you may move that to an evacuation order if you find that it's more protective. It's not necessarily confusion. It's just as more information comes in, we're constantly evaluating what's most protective.
And there was some guidance yesterday regarding not using air conditioning. Do you have any update on that? There were a lot of viewer questions wondering why air conditioning might not be the best idea right now.
So when you're sheltered in place, sometimes you may be advised not to run your air conditioner. Running your air conditioner may just increase air infiltration or increase the air exchanges of your house, which may, depending on a leaky door or a leaky window, it may pull air in from outside. So by not running the air conditioning, you're kind of staying, you may be avoiding that.
Let me step in.
Yes.
Just to clarify, this is a debrief on Gwinnett County. So any questions about Gwinnett, we are happy to answer, but we can't assume or answer any questions about Rockdale County. So the folks you see up here, strictly Gwinnett.
Shifting back to Gwinnett, if you could just talk to us about the amount of calls for service, any medical transports that you think are directly a result of this plume.
Yes, sir. As I said earlier, we had one or two people in the emergency 911 center. They got about 179 total calls that range from assist citizens, breathing concerns, gas leaks, things of that nature that were probably in regards to the situation that happened in Rockdale.
But no transports or any other medical situations that you can talk about?
I can't confirm the amount of transports or how serious the issues were because I haven't looked into those.
Can you say where the calls are coming from frequently right now? Or
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Can you say where in Gwinnett a lot of the calls are coming from? Are you getting a lot from, is it kind of heavy in South Gwinnett?
Yeah, we had a lot of calls heavy down in the Snellville area. But I can't say specifically what calls were attached to what area.
Does anyone want to put a line under your message to Gwinnett County residents, how they should feel, Chairwoman or the Chief?
Well, definitely, just understand that our emergency management center, the public safety entities in the county are closely monitoring the situation in collaboration with EPA. And if we had any concerns, we'll definitely communicate that out to our citizens and our residents of this county. At this time, we feel confident that the decisions we've made and the preparations we've made and the monitoring that we have done thus far are adequate, and we feel that residents of Gwinnett County are safe and secure at this time. I'll add to that because we do have people with pre-existing conditions who are predisposed to aerosol irritants. Please do not hesitate to contact your emergency 911 center if you have any type of concerns, because we'll definitely come out to assess the situation. But just know that we're doing everything that we can to be prepared for a situation worsening. But we feel confident at this moment that the situation is subsiding and things are getting back to a normal level.
So good afternoon, Chief J.D. McClure of the Gwinnett County Police Department. And from a police perspective, and looking first and foremost at 911, as Chief Cephas mentioned, we did see an increase in calls, but more than enough staffing on hand so that the 911 center was not adversely affected. And then the same for our field operations, our officers out in the field. Our commanders report normal operations there. So in terms of service delivery from the police department, we were not adversely affected.
Was there any uptick in any motor vehicle incidents this morning due to the visibility?
Not that I've been made aware of. And then finally, I would add that our first order of business was to establish a unified incident command here at our Emergency Operations Center. So the fire department's in the room, the police department's in the room, the Office of Emergency Management, just ensuring that strategically our planning is in sync and that our message in terms of communications is the exact same. So I'm happy to answer any other questions from the police perspective. Thank you.
With that said, if you have no further questions, we'll wrap this up, and you're free to grab anyone that you see up here if you want a one-on-one. All right, thank you.